Christian Gohell here with Watch BC Sports. We are in the middle of a potential playoff run for the basketball team as they're heading over to Wayne County to take on New Hampstead in a play-in game for the region tournament. So getting that geared up, soccer, lacrosse, baseball, all get ready to start their seasons as well. So a lot of winter sports and spring sports getting going here. A lot of teams getting ready for playoff runs, but also got a lot of teams that are going to come up in the fall that really are beginning the process right now of getting going and starting those strength and conditioning and developing. And no better guy to talk to about it than the department head for physical education at BC and the strength and conditioning coach at BC, Stephen Reich. I know it's a busy time for you, man. We appreciate it.
Well, hey, thank you so much for having me. You know, anytime I can talk about how hard the guys are working, I get really excited about it. So, yeah, glad to be here.
We were kind of talking before we got on here. Same role for you, but almost more responsibility now as you've transitioned to full off-season work as well as what you're doing in season with the guys now a little bit. I know you've been a guy who would be on the field a lot for football and has been helping out with soccer a lot, but taking a step more into the weight room now and going full 365 with all of the programs now.
Yeah.
A little bit about the decision-making into that and what that process is going to look like for you.
You know, I have to give all the credit to Coach Holland. I was, me and him sat down and we kind of looked at all the teams. We looked at some of our peer institutions and what they were doing, not only in the weight room, but just kind of department wide, and then we kind of looked at our space and how, BC is unique in the sense that we have the teachers to be able to teach 400 students, but it's not, like every class is going to have like a certain time. So it's very hard to break it up by throughout the day. Oh, the basketball team lives in this period, the football team in this period, and so on. So it was really just kind of looking forward thinking or looking to forward think and see like, okay, well, what can we do for BC? And I was like, well, the after school, here's what the space will allow. Let me work with the coaches to see. We had a all head coaches meeting. All the coaches were on board. This is something that we want to do with our programs. We really started in the summer. So I know we talked a lot about the football work in the morning time. And then in the afternoons, I had basically kind of open gym for set teams. Baseball was probably the one that attended the most. But we still had soccer players. We still had some tennis players. We still had, we also did incoming freshmen too that weren't on football, which come to find out that played a lot of different sports, a lot of lacrosse kids. And so our afternoons, basically it would go, 8 to 12 was football. And then afternoons, basically from like 12:30 to 2:30, it was kind of everybody else. And it sounds like a lot of work, but it really made my job a lot easier. This was the second year in a row that we've done the incoming freshman workouts, and just starting off the school year, them not being afraid of the weight room, them knowing kind of our foundational movements, like this is a squat, this is a hinge, this is what a lunge looks like, this is what goblet means, like those types of, just weight room wisdom and a weight room awareness. Them already having that has made it a lot easier for class when class gets started to hit the ground running. So Coach Holland kind of put this plan together. We had a master schedule, and during the fall time, my afternoons, I spent a lot of time in the weight room with these spring teams, and now I'm really excited to kind of watch them go. And I know soccer starts tonight, baseball started last night. Baseball has a lift this afternoon. Coach JP really wanted to continue the momentum that we had built in season 2, especially with the younger baseball players. So I'm excited to kind of see them just continue on. And, with this being my 4th year, every single kid at the school has been through PE at least 1 year or 1 semester. So, even if they've stopped taking PE and they've been training elsewhere, when they come into the weight room, they kind of know the expectations, know the culture. And it's been a joy to watch. This has been my favorite year yet. And I'm really excited to kind of just continue to build on with the other teams who maybe only kind of came in once a week, and just kind of continuing on to kind of build the department and, pushing, just driving BC forward, just like we have with football and some of the other teams who have more of a training culture.
I think we can start every conversation around BC athletics with, we got to thank Coach Holland, because
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know that the dude ever goes home. I don't know if his family ever sees him unless it's at Benedictine. He's always working. But
yep,
with that said, I am interested because it's people talk about all the time, especially at the college level, where you spend the most time with the strength and conditioning coach. That's the coach who, outside of maybe your head coach, who you're going to see 2 or 3 times in the off season, just maybe in passing or just like in check-ins, you're going to spend a majority of the time with that strength and conditioning coach. I remember my coach from high school, Dana Melvin. It's one of those guys who kind of sticks with you and can be formally through your whole life. For you with these guys, is it, I know the freshmen get the in doc where it's like, here's a squat, here's a bench, here's what we're
yeah.
focusing on. Do you get super specialized with the different sports, or is it a foundation of we're just going to try to get you as strong and fit as possible?
Great question. And to spare, a bunch of exercise science or that nature, we do individualize to the sense of kind of gearing the programs to complement the stressors that they are experiencing at practice, right? So if you look at the course of their day, the majority of the time that they spend here at BC is obviously in school, so we have to account for just the stress factor of being at a military high school. The other thing that we account, so that's for everybody. That's like the umbrella over everybody from a programming standpoint. Like we can't just max out every day, every set to failure, that type of deal, because these kids will gas out. And so we have to account for that. When it comes to sport-specific training, my thing is the separate umbrellas then go towards like, are they in season, off season, or preseason? Because then that's going to kind of dictate how much time their sport coaches working with them. So for instance, in the springtime, because there's so many sports, how we split up PE classes are based on sport. So I have kind of more of the off-season teams. Coach Ed kind of has more of the in-season field sport teams, and we just program accordingly based off of that kind of stressor, because those teams are going to have different stressors at practice than, for instance, the football guys right now. Like they might be going and doing individual work, or some of them are running track, but for the most part, right now they're trying to put on as much muscle as possible. So then the program is going to be kind of geared towards that, right? And so within that kind of framework, one can train a squat movement pattern both in season, preseason, and off season, but like how they're doing it can change based off that, right? So for instance, like if a kid has a game that day, he might do a pause goblet squat, which is a lower stress on the body, but still training that range of motion. And a kid will get better from that and reap rewards from that, even if it's just maintaining the strength or maintaining the movement quality that they have, versus a football guy who all he's doing is training, doing off-season training and maybe some position work outside, to where his sets and reps not only look different, but then also the exercise itself might look different. He might be doing a back squat with a pause. The football guys hated me for the first month of January because, what we were trying to do is reestablish movement patterns that, over the course of a 15, 16 game football season, you're going to be banged up. You're going to make adjustments. You're going to, your squats might not look as great
Those adductors
at the end of the season as they do at the beginning, and so they hated the fact that I was adding pauses and adding tempos just to be able to restore the movement quality that they may have lost. And it's hard. So they weren't the most excited about it, but they were really excited when we started the phase this week, because we kind of took some of those out, and now it's kind of more of like, okay, this is what they're good at, this is what they like, and so that's kind of how we divide it up when it comes to sport specific training. And also too, the one thing that we have to account for, as well as a lot of kids, like our classes we probably get 37 to 39 minutes of actual training for every period.
Yeah.
It would be very naive of me to think like that's all they need in a day, right? So we encourage them to train outside of here as well. The one thing that we just make sure that we do is not only communicate to the kid, hey, here's what the week looks like at the beginning of the week. We put it on their MyBC so they can check it at any point. Parents can check it at any point. And at the parents meeting at the beginning of the school year, not only for team meetings, but also like meet the teacher night, I go over like, hey, here's where you can see what we're doing. Here are the types of questions you need to ask if you're looking for outside training to to make sure that they have your son's best interest and uh, best interests, looking at what his body can handle, that type of development. There's his son, that what's best going to develop your son. Here are the types of questions you need to ask, just so that way we're all on the same page and you're not doubling up. Because where the high school kids, it's kind of like, is it really overtraining or are you just under recovering? Because we could have these kids pick up a bunch of heavy rocks. I know Coach Britt loves to say it all the time, like, hey, we did, this weight, and you add a little bit of weight each week and you get stronger. Yeah, that works for our guys. Like, that really does work. But at the same time, where overuse injuries can happen is if it's like, oh, coach, my shoulder hurts. Okay, like, what'd you do yesterday? Well, I maxed out with my buddies bench pressing. And it's like, well, today's like your upper body, like today, like bench press is the primary movement. Like, it's not going to feel great if you do it 5 days a week, So we do that type of communication as well. So then that way everybody can be on the same page, because, like 30 minutes a day, like, we're getting a lot of work in and we're maximizing that time. But at the same time, like, there's a lot of development that can also be had outside to just maximize them being 14 to 18-year-old kids.
I'm curious because I think one of the cool things about BC, whether it's athletics or what you want for your kid, or what they want when they're going to school and in their future, I think you guys are very honest and you're super transparent about what that looks like. So I'm curious for like a guy like Amari Burse, who is a Division I athlete going to UAB to play baseball, but is also going to be the starting quarterback for the football team next year. Is that training skewed towards baseball and just trying to keep him as healthy as possible for that, and then just trusting that he's going to be a strong enough athlete for football?
Yeah, well, the good news about him is he's a freak athlete and he works really hard in here. And so, that kind of makes my job easier in the sense that whatever he's going to be doing in here, he's going to get better from it.
Yeah.
And so,
and for parents out there, that's not true for everyone.
No, it's not true for everyone, but also too, like, he's also a high output guy. He can sprint over 20 miles an hour. He's also very strong per pound of body weight. He was an Iron Cadet, so he's probably going to be in the 900-pound club that we're going to call Iron Cadet Pros. So we have that level in between, like an Iron Cadet Pro, Iron Cadet Elite. He's probably going to be in that second group, which is phenomenal for someone who, he weighed in at, I think it was like 175 pounds today, 178. And so phenomenal strength to body weight ratio. For me, with him being in season, as an overhead athlete, like, I do take that into account. So for instance, we have neutral grip bars here. So like on bench press, instead of him having to do, the traditional regular bench press, right, wrong, or indifferent, he likes the feel of going neutral grip, which, he can load that up a little bit heavier than a dumbbell bench, because at some point on a dumbbell bench, your technique breaks down to where it's not conducive to lifting heavy. But also he's going to communicate with me, and I'm going to have an awareness of when his games are. And on a day that might have an open set or an evaluation set, maybe we're cutting him off at 3 reps, so that way it's not something he's going to be too sore from come game time, and he can still compete as well, because Coach Britt, he's very big on, hey, he wants every single team here to win. Everybody, especially me, I want every team to win here as well. Yeah. And we want to put them in a position to win. But also at the same time, it's like, that doesn't mean, hey, I'm going to kick my feet up and I'm just going to roll out today, or I'm going to go get a massage gun and, massage my calf out. Like, no, you got to train too, because you're not just preparing for staying strong now. You're preparing for, what we hope for is another 16-game season.
100%.
I say 16 counting the scrimmage game.
I was going to say
we're playing all of them.
Everybody. And I think, again, one of the cool things about it is just how honest you guys are with people. And I've heard it time and time again, and it always seems to be true. The best teams are player-led teams, and we've been talking a little bit about some of the guys who are coming back. It's just such a historic senior class that's moving on, specifically from the fall sports and football. And right now, those guys, the juniors, are getting ready to be seniors, taking over kind of that mantle for those guys. With that off-season work that you started to implement, who are some of the guys that are kind of standing out to you in the weight room right now?
Yeah, I think this week was a really good week. I can't forget. I'm not going to miss out on Rasheem Jackson. He's been killing it. I think I was telling you about this the other night at the basketball game. All 4 years, he's been someone just through sheer willpower and effort. He's earned everything that he's every opportunity that he's gotten. I think his senior year is going to be his year to kind of shine. And the cool thing this year is he has single-handedly helped and led two guys who work hard, but can sometimes, they're still kind of learning how to be like self-led or kind of self-motivated guys. And so he's taken two guys under his wing, and one being a freshman who will be a sophomore who will probably lean on, and then another who will be a junior. And he's changed their trajectory. Like, I'm really excited about all three of them now. Some other guys that I think are really going to kind of, everybody knows Aaron Mallard. He's been in here. And then the cool thing about him is that not only does he come in and train, then he goes out to track practice and absolutely kind of dominates too. I think Karan Hall, who you would think, like, he's so tall, like, normally receivers and basketball players are kind of averse to the weight room. Like, he's obsessed with putting on weight. He's trying to eat more. And he's always wanting to kind of push it on when it comes to weight room numbers. That's been awesome. Carson Granger just bench pressed today, 240 for 8, which is like, and he only weighs 200 and I think it was 235 was what he weighed in today. That'll be awesome. Caden Thomas, who was a sophomore, he's also been really pushing himself in here. Let's see, some other guys. Those are just kind of guys that maybe you haven't heard their names, too much on, like the Danny Britt show and stuff, but they've been really pushing and really kind of obsessed with getting better. Aaron Brown, someone I think is going to be someone that really helps us. Everett Nelson, Reef Leonard, all the linemen are bought into what we're trying to do. Turner Walker is putting on weight, which has been good to see, because he's been, for the majority of his career, has been a hard gainer. And then now all of a sudden it's kind of finally clicking for him. Will Clark is another one. He's probably our best squatter right now, just from a weight and technique standpoint. It's like, what in the world? And he's coming, that's him having a knee injury too, that he had to deal with and come back from. So I'm really excited about him. I think he's going to be kind of one of those guys where it's like you always have like a surprise guy, and it's like, whoa, where did he come? I think Will Clark is going to be kind of maybe that surprise guy. So a lot to be excited about. I appreciate the fact, I want to, give another shout out to our, not only Coach Britt and Coach Coleman for kind of moving this direction, but also Miss Crosley and Miss Mel from our student services office. They put a lot of work in behind the scenes to finally get our kind of lunch period to be a football training period. And I really think that the reason we were able to stay as strong as we did, and it looked like we were just continuing to get better every week deep into the playoffs, was because we were able to have a consistent training schedule to where we weren't trying to come in too early. Like we weren't trying to come in and lift at 7 a.m. when practice is going to 7 p.m. And so guys were able to stay a little bit more fresh because we were just having that constant Monday through Wednesday we lift. Thursday we had, whether it was film or a walkthrough. Friday was a walkthrough and recovery. And it was that way every single week, all the way up until the end when there was, we were preparing for the championship game. So I really wanted to give those folks a shout out, because, the more people think like, oh, the weight room, is it the workout, is it the exercises, is the programming? And it's like, no, it's the frequency and consistency of training that is going to make the biggest difference in a high school athlete's career in terms of, in their physical development. So us being able to nail that down was phenomenal. And I'm looking forward to this year too.
Yep. That age when they're all still made out of rubber, they're going to get strong regardless of what they do. Last thing, we'll get you out of here. If there's a parent watching right now, maybe an 8th grader, they got a freshman at the school right now, top 3 pieces of advice you could give to them and their kid to kind of help with that? Because I know, like you said, teenagers are not the best about eating. They're not the best about getting sleep. Right. So what are the top 3 things you would tell
them? So the first one too, it's exposing them to as many sports as possible. So, I highlighted Reef Leonard.
Yeah.
So he's 274 pounds right now. Okay. Big Reef. He's put on 12 pounds in the end season, but he goes out and every day at lacrosse practice, he's running around. I would have never guessed that's how much he weighed, and so having them play multiple sports, even if they're maybe, a bigger kid or a taller kid, that's huge. And, I know that's almost kind of cliche, so I feel almost kind of bad using it as one of my top three, but exposing them to as many different, that just creates a base level athleticism and a movement like profile that then when you ask them like, hey, can they do a bodyweight pull up or can they do a push up? Because they've been exposed to all these different, can they do a bodyweight lunge? Can they do those things? They are the athletes that play multiple sports are able to do those things and do them well, especially if it's a bigger kid like a lineman. With the way our offense and defense kind of goes, like they have to be able to run. Bigger kids have to be able to move, and it's a lot harder for a bigger kid who's never played a sport and they can't pick their knee up. And then trying to teach them how to be able to pick their knee up and run with, while they're also growing is just very, very tough. I definitely would expose them to some type of training, even if it's body weight. I know a lot of kids, it's like, oh, look at this 8th grader who squatted 400 pounds, and then it's like, that squat was not great. Their knees are going forward. Their knees are caving in, all those things. Like, that's not great. So some type of training, and there's a lot of good, I know Transform's has a great youth program. I know that Coach Moore with AMP, they do a lot of like running kind of base, like running mechanics type training. That's awesome. They have, and for all sizes, shapes and sizes and
right.
Boys and girls. So some type of training like that too. And ask questions about it also, like, hey, what does it look like for a younger kid versus an older kid? If an older kid's doing the same program as a younger kid, that's not catered to them, and you can't tell me, that's how we split up in the falls, because you can't tell me an incoming freshman is going to have the same needs or the same characteristics as a guy who's been training for 4 years in here. They're going to have different needs. And the last thing too is just having a routine of eating, a routine of like a bedtime routine of making sure they're getting enough sleep, which I know is also cliche too. But, just the other day I shared on kind of Instagram for our guys of talking about there's no difference between getting 6 hours of sleep and pulling an all-nighter. Science has shown that both equally will have negative effects from like a cognitive standpoint, from a potential injury happening, like increases your chances for injury. So, how many times are they only getting 6 hours and it's like they could have just pulled an all-nighter? Oh, I might not feel as tired. It's because their body gets used to it. But you're still putting yourself at risk. So sometimes, even if it's fighting to get them 7 hours of sleep or 8 hours of sleep, that's going to be huge for, just their development at all is recovering. Because that was the other thing. That was kind of the take home point this week for kids is we ask them like, all right, guys, when do you get stronger? And they'd be like, when you train, when you lift. And it's like, no, actually you're getting weaker then. It's when your body's repairing all the damage you did to it throughout the course of the day when you sleep. And, they had no idea about that. But getting some type of routine and maybe even just telling them how important it is at a younger age. So that way they're prioritizing it. And, and sometimes, you're not going to, like if we get home from a road game at 3 a.m., okay, get it. Like that day is going to kind of be tough, right? But at the same time, at some point, how do they catch up? Do they take a nap in the day? Teaching them the importance of that kind of stuff. That's going to be huge for the habits. So then if they want to continue on at the college level, like that's all the messaging that I just said is going to be repeated, by not only their strength coach in college, but by all the other support staff that they have at the college level, So if that's something that your son is passionate about or wanting to try, then that's the stuff that they need to start taking seriously now. Because when you do that, it just makes it a lot easier, and then you kind of see more benefits from all the stuff that they're doing throughout the course of the day.
I know some college athletes whose coaches have them set a alarm to go to bed, not to wake up. So he's speaking the truth. Sleep is the superpower that nobody takes advantage of. So really cool stuff there. Steven, we appreciate the time, man. I know a lot of kids out there probably going to see this and say, all right, I need to get in there. Start hitting the weights. Right? We appreciate it. And we're, like I said, football season starts now for those guys. And then we got soccer getting ready to roll, lacrosse rolling, baseball's already going. So I know you're a busy dude. We appreciate the time.
No, thank you so much for having me.